Greetings shippers, welcome back, and it's once more time to enter the realm of Voltron Legendary Defender. This time we're not going back to the fandom's most dominant ship, but instead we're going to take a look at Sheith, its main rival. That being the pairing of Shiro and Keith. Now, we've done rival pairings on here before, but never one with an active, ongoing war at the time of recording. And the war between Klance and Sheith is legendary. In fact, the battles between these two ships is one of the reasons that this fandom has been labeled toxic. Although there are, of course, others, but this is a large contributing factor. So bearing that in mind, it's probably best to issue a brief disclaimer. As always on this channel, we'll go over the pros and cons and the controversies surrounding this ship. So in the spirit of inclusivity, let's keep the comments a positive place. And honestly, most of the time you guys are great at that, so I probably don't even need to say anything. But just in case, let's leave the wars on Tumblr, and preferably, let's just not have them happen at all. Ship and let's ship. With all of that out of the way, let's dive right into Sheith. Voltron Legendary Defender is Netflix and DreamWorks' extremely successful revival of the classic 80s anime, Voltron, which was an American adapted version of two different Japanese anime, the first season coming from Beast King Go Lion, and the second featuring animation from Armored Fleet Dairuger 15. While some elements of the original series have been maintained, and there have been nods to the source material throughout Voltron Legendary Defender, this series is also content to move in its own direction at times, with a strong focus on appealing to its young demographic, though it does have a significant audience of older viewers as well. While Voltron Legendary Defender has only aired 3 seasons at the time of this recording, it has already generated a passionate following and a large extended fandom with a particularly strong shipping culture, with many of the characters being paired together, although based on the interactions presented within the canon, the two aforementioned ships have emerged as dominant. We've talked about Klance already, more than once, so let's dive in and meet the players for Sheith. Let's start with Keith, the loner archetype, a status even acknowledged by the show itself in Season 3, wherein Pidge employs meta humor to point out which category each of the characters broadly falls into. Keith is focused and driven, and while extremely loyal to his friends, his maverick tendencies make his ascent to leadership a difficult one, as he must learn to work together and consider both the needs of his team and his own desires. He is naturally talented and gives off a confident self-assuredness that makes people want to rally behind him. Despite this, he does have doubts about himself and his abilities, and is still struggling to find himself and understand the secrets of his past. He grows more confident over time, particularly with the help of his teammates, especially Shiro, with whom he shares a close bond and some experiences that have yet to be disclosed at the time of this recording. Speaking of Shiro, he's the original paladin of the Black Lion, though the transition to Keith as the pilot of the Black Lion is a shift that is not surprising for those who watched the original Voltron, wherein Shiro's character, known in the English dub as Sven, died early on, though his death was handled quite softly in the English version so as not to upset young viewers. This past was homaged in Season 3, Episode 4, Hole in the Sky, wherein the parallel universe version of Shiro is given the name. But back to main universe Shiro. He is a seasoned veteran of space missions, and suffers from PTSD as a result of his capture by the Galra and various unspecified experiments run on him. These have left him modified and scarred. More mature than the others as a result of both his age and experiences, he acts as a calming force on the team, and they tend to look up to him, with many in the fandom referring to him as their space dad. Shiro is slightly fatalistic and keenly aware of his own mortality, which has led him to prepare a successor just in case, a responsibility he has placed on Keith, his close friend and protege. Despite all of this, Shiro has a light-hearted side that can bolster the team in times of trouble. Keith and Shiro enter the series with a close relationship. In fact, Keith rescuing Shiro is his entrance into the series. The two are comrades and friends, both relying heavily on the other, and trust each other with both their lives and their potential, and are able to show vulnerabilities to each other regardless of their differing ranks and circumstances. Their support and faith in each other is total. Shiro never faltered when Keith's heritage was revealed, and is always looking out for him, pushing him to be the best he can be. Keith likewise will do anything for Shiro, including risking his own life, and he will throw all of their priorities to the wayside if Shiro needs him. His own belief in himself is increased by Shiro's trust and confidence. The two have shared several key character development moments together and have one of the strongest canon established relationships in the series in terms of friendship, a closeness they define at one point as brotherhood. Although for some shippers, they believe that these scenes are the building blocks to a canon romance. So why do people ship these two? Well, as all the aforementioned indicates, these two's relationship is a significant part of the series in terms of advancing both of their characters, and their closeness is blatantly on display. Unlike Keith and Lance, who are clearly on the trajectory of rivals to friends, and in the the minds of many shippers something more, Keith and Shiro offer the shipper the already formed bond to play off of. A closeness that has existed before the series that offers opportunities for extrapolation and sets the two apart from the others. The commitment these two have to one another is clear and for many fans lends itself well to romantic leanings, taking particular note of the respect the two share for each other and also the potential symbolism of their relationship as represented by their sharing of lions. Art and fics for these two are varied and quite lovely, though it occupies a much smaller part of the fandom than Klance, which forms an undisputed majority. Despite this, the two ships are clear rivals based on the vehemence with which they are shipped and the confrontations between the two groups. Which brings us to our next question: why not ship these two? Before we get to the drama, let's cover the less charged reasons. For some, the chemistry was simply not there, and many were drawn to the pairing of Klance instead, drawn to the more traditional Narusasu-style rivalry dynamic, while others felt the expression of a familial bond in canon was a clear indication of the nature of these two's relationship. Some fans also made note of how closely Shiro's animation resembled Keith's father's, using that as a way to claim that the ship had incestuous overtones. However, for some, what stopped them from finding the ship appealing was the age difference. Now, the tale of the age differences in Voltron is a long one, so get your popcorn ready. And this explanation is going to make the cons section much larger, but that doesn't necessarily mean that there are more cons than pros, simply that the cons are complex and need much explanation. Initially in 2016, when the series began, there was no firm stance in regards to the characters' ages. Instead, there were three differing sources: fans, with a variety of opinions based both on their interpretations and to suit their ships. Next were some of the cast and crew, with some statements being made at the 2016 Comic-Con by executive staff members pinning Shiro's age at 25, with the rest of the Paladins as teens, though they went on to say that it was a safe zone and all fans were free to interpret the ages how they liked, this inference being they could also ship what they shipped. Finally, there came the descriptions of the team from the DreamWorks website, which labeled the series as the adventures of 5 teenagers. As a result of all this confusion, some fans believed there was grounds to attack Sheith and those who ship it based on the idea that it was a pedophilic ship that normalized underage romance, and furthermore that those who enjoyed it were morally bankrupt. Many of these were Klance shippers, however this idea could come from a variety of sides and different ships to the point where the term anti has actually shifted meanings within the Voltron fandom. While anti is normally a general term, a person is anti a work or anti a ship, the term anti in certain corners of the Voltron fandom has come to mean anyone who is against shipping Sheith, usually on the grounds of finding it repulsive, with the general hope that the replacement ship will be Klance, as some who are antis in this fandom are made to declare their ship of choice. Interestingly enough, this is not the only ship within the fandom to manifest with a potential age gap. However, outrage over the others is far less vocal, perhaps because of the relative smallness of those ships, or because of the threat some perceive from Sheith, feeling that it perhaps has potential due to the moments the characters share in canon. Regardless, those who ship Sheith countered many ways, either by stating the ages were up to interpretation and not official, either because they do not view the creator's word as law, or believe that fandom is a space for exercising one's creativity, and changing a character's perceived age is a very simple shift. Others felt the perceived gap was nowhere near as harmful as people were making it out to be, feeling that at his youngest Keith was 16, and that if Shiro were 25, while a gap, nothing illegal would be taking place in many places, and in those where it may be, that the relative maturity differences were negligible, especially given the circumstances the characters find themselves in, which are completely different from everyday circumstances, while others still felt it was a fictional world and need not be judged by real-world standards, and that such works do not play a role in the normalization of such behaviors, a stance that those who believe it does can never agree with, and they fear some of the previously mentioned opinions will lead to some problematic real-world relationships or people dismissing when they are in actual dangerous predatory relationship. Though it is unclear how many genuinely feared normalizing pedophilia and how many simply sought to legitimize Klance, the whole playing field shifted on August 8, 2017, with yet another change to the ages of the Paladins. This came when their ages were confirmed in the Paladin's Handbook, a companion for the series, wherein it was stated that while Shiro was indeed 25, Keith was 18, meaning nothing illegal was taking place. While some antis still clung to the idea that 7 years is too large a gap, Sheith shippers rejoiced and struck back at Klance shippers as Lance's age was declared to be 17. Hence, some members of the fandom began launching claims of pedophilia at the Klance fandom, which while some noted was a hyperbolic reaction to how they felt they had been attacked, others actually fought back, saying it was only 1 year versus 7. Season 3 of Voltron contains strong moments for both ships, and while multi-shippers and more moderate fans rejoice, the war definitely still rages between the more extreme shippers on both sides. In fact, some fans debate the canon validity of the handbook, and others continue to not care, as they will ship what they ship regardless of the salvos lobbied their way. So why is the ship war so strong? Well, it may in part be because fans are eagerly awaiting the promise of LGBTQ representation on the show, and there are many guesses as to who and what it will be and how it will be handled, with both sides convinced their ship is actually canon, as it is said that the series is largely already plotted. Hence, some shippers from each group hold out the hope of becoming legitimate. There are many other factors at play as well: youth, outrage culture, call-out culture, the entitlement aspects of fan culture, expectations from previous productions that shared some staff, and much more. But wherever the source, this and other equally aggressive behaviors have given this fandom the label of toxic. And alas, after the reaction to the official ages, it may have a fair bit of toxicity left in it before it calms down. Many still seek out certain tags on Tumblr, such as Shiro or Sheith, and bombard them with negativity, forcing people to block the tag. All of this is a real shame, as the Voltron fandom has so much to offer. It contains some extremely creative works both on the fic and the art front, and some dedicated fans who perform awesome acts such as great cosplays and just general enthusiasm for the product. There are many working to combat how negative the shipping aspect of this fandom has become in certain circles. And despite how it appears, there are indeed multi-shippers in this fandom. Even fans of the OT3 called Klance. So it really is a loss that some fans will be turned away by all of the negativity that surrounds certain aspects of the fandom. However, for those who are Sheith shippers or were intrigued and want to know where to look, there are safe havens still. Searching for fanfiction can yield some positive results, in Archive of Our Own especially, and the comments are not on full display, so negativity must be sought out. Unless one is an author, which definitely changes things, as the negativity can be sent directly to the individual who wrote the piece unless they turn comments off. For art, entering the Sheith hashtag on Twitter brings up some lovely stuff, and the drama is not very present unless a big event occurs. A large portion of the more toxic occurrences within this fandom do unfortunately happen on Tumblr. And finally, I must shout out the fans on the Voltron Amino, who work hard to create a safe space for all fans of all characters and ships. It's a really good time over there. Stuff does still happen, but people work very hard to try and keep it contained. Sheith has much potential as a ship for those who are fans of close bonds as the foundation for their pairs. Whether or not one can handle all the drama that comes with entering the Sheith side of fandom is another thing entirely. It is always unfortunate when a dominant ship makes the fandom uncomfortable for others, as Sheith shippers are not the only ones within the fandom to find themselves pushed out by Klance. Though it must be noted there are also many kind, positive Klance shippers creating lovely works in the fandom, and that the vitriol goes both ways, with some Sheith shippers actively antagonizing Klance shippers and attempting to pollute their tags as well, or posing as Klance shippers and causing trouble, though their number is smaller just based on how many people ship each ship. Like any fandom, there are many ships and a variety of reasons people ship them, and one must not assume the worst and cast aspersions without first ascertaining the truth of intent. As always, ship and let's ship. There is plenty of fandom for everyone, and multiple ships should be able to occupy a space regardless of whether one becomes canon or not, or if one is more plausible than the other. Shipping should be a fun expression of fandom rather than a source of toxicity. So I'll pass the question off to you. Are you Sheith shippers? Why or why not? Let me know down below.
And now for something completely different.
Side note, how are you liking the new glasses? I can see again, so I really like them. Also, my goal was to be as Clark Kent as possible with these, and I feel like I've succeeded. Why no, Mr. White, you're not gonna get that article on flag football. I'm writing an article on the Batman. I'll save you, Lois. Look, danger, let me just go to the... I mean, I suppose I could be Supergirl as well. Miss Grant, that is workplace harassment. You can't speak to me that way, and I don't have to take it. At least that's how the show would go if I wrote it. I also like that sometimes I now have that anime villain sheen going on as the light just glides across them. So basically, I'm having way too much fun with these glasses. This has been Shipper's Guide to the Galaxy. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Check out social media to stay up to date. Special thanks to all of my patrons, names on the side, and as always, stay tuned, for there are as many ships out there as there are stars in the sky.